and welcome back to Fuzzy Ducksy Gaming, and a bit of a different video on the channel this time. I'm getting a bit bored of trying different skills in this league. I've kind of pushed the builds I want to play as far as I want to push them. I don't really want to start league start testing because we have no idea what GGG are going to do with the skills, supports, items, stuff like that. And realistically, there's probably going to be a huge meta shift, and there may even be, hopefully, some new skills, and I'll definitely play one of them in the next league. So what I thought we'd do for a bit of an interesting challenge is revisit my league starter from 310 and 311, which at the time was super off meta, and it still is, and it's not fared very well in terms of aging. So I've linked the video to the guide, which was like 3.11. I think it's one of the first guides I did, because people asked me to do like an off meta build that was cheap that could still boss. And the build is a channeling skill, which already is a no-no. And it's Incinerate Elementalist. Obviously, the game's changed a hell of a lot since 3.10, so I've had to rejig the build a little bit because the trees changed, ascendancies have changed, the way certain skills and skill gems interact have changed. So I've made a few tweaks, but realistically, it's the same kind of build and the same premise. So this build was brought out when Elementalist originally had really good golem buffs, then they removed them and then they put them back again. So the build was originally created with the first lot of golem buffs that you got, where you got ailment immunity as well and loads of other juicy stuff. And GGG decided that that was too good and removed them. So the build itself is a hit-based Elementalist, and it's using Incinerate. It uses the golem buffs to kind of stack some defensive aspects and offense. Other than that, it's a fairly straightforward and cheap build, and that was kind of the reason I league started with it a long time ago, because I wouldn't say I'm good at the game now, but I was terrible then. I was so bad at bossing that I had to have something that was tanky. And at the time, you could really build Elementalist super tanky with the golem buff, so you didn't have to worry about kind of Uberlab or Cirrus and stuff like that, because you got such insane regen from the golems along with physical defense. You could tank nearly everything, like a lot of the things that are in the game now in terms of damage over time, increased enemy damage, obviously the arch nemesis buffs. I think there was boss health buffs since then as well. So this was a super easy build to do on the cheap. It mapped like shit, to be honest. It wasn't great because you got the odd Herald of Ash explosion. Other than that, you're standing still, channeling the skill that until it gets to max stages doesn't have a great AoE. So it was a slow mapper, but it was what I wanted to league start with because I wanted to get like Guardians done, Cirrus done and stuff like that. And I wanted to be able to boss fairly comfortably because that's what I wanted to look to do for cheap in that league, and it worked really well. I don't think it would work in the slightest now as a league starter, but what I've done is just got a little bit of currency together. I've probably spent 3x maybe on the build, if that. No, it's probably not that much. Maybe 2 to 3x on the build, just to see how it performs. Now, I'm still only level 82, so I've got a bit of grinding to do, but as I was totally bored of everything else, I thought we'll just do something totally different, revisit an old like off meta build and just see where we can get with it. I'm not planning to pump loads of money into it, but I will invest some more to try and get the build clearing like some bosses and stuff like that. So we'll go over the skill tree really quickly. It's essentially just grabbing block, life, and then damage using a staff. So I've taken like any block nodes I can get with staffs. I've taken life. We're going at the moment Elemental Overload because it's quite hard to get kind of crit and block from the tree if you haven't got it all from your gear. And then I'm going to go up here and get some sort of fire damage cluster jewel. And then I'd like to fit in something with reservation efficiency as a small cluster to make this a bit comfier, and fit in Defiance Banner. Because even with golem buffs and flasks, I am still pretty squishy, like 13k. We do get some fizz mitigation from having a chaos golem, but it's still going to be a fairly squishy build. I don't have any expectations for this build. I just wanted to try something a little bit different. So I'll run through the gem links. I'm not sure these are optimal. Originally, there were a few different gems in there, but because you're channeling, you don't use a lot of mana. I had stuff like a level 20 Arcane Surge, and that would probably take about 20 seconds to get your buff, and then it only lasts for 4 seconds. So it really wasn't worth it. So in terms of the staff, I'm just going Annihilating Light for the triple damage. So it's a bog standard helmet with +2 to maximum stages. This is more for the bossing aspect because once you get to 10, you do more damage. Takes a little while to get there, but the other enchants were not brilliant. The one I wanted was more damage per stage, but there was literally about 8 on the market and no one replied. The only ones available were on a dex base, which are no good for me because I have 68 dexterity. Running Zoth's Blood to get some Avatar of Fire, some Fire Pen, some resistance. It's just a really good amulet for this build. It's strength, life, and loads of juicy bits. For now, I've gone kind of defensive for the Anoint. I've gone block and spell block. Plan to get some more block in with cluster jewels, so we can try and get to maybe, once we get a roomies, maybe 60% attack and spell block, which would be pretty nice. Just bog standard 6-link Armored Evasion chest. This is one I found on the ground, but you can buy it for 10C and then roll it with some essences. And then I've rolled a couple of Eldritch currencies on it. I don't know if these implicits are ideal, but they'll do for now. We can always fine tune it later. And then ring wise, we're just trying to stack as much resistances as we can because we get the minus resistances from Annihilating Light. So that's all we've done here. Dirt cheap rings, but they kind of serve the purpose. The gloves I crafted myself with essences. I found the fractured gloves on the floor. I thought, well, it's one resistance I don't have to worry about. And then I've crafted fire exposure, which I wanted. At the moment, I'm stuck with Herald of Ash buff effect, which I don't really want. I would ideally like Unnerve, but it's quite rare, and I didn't want to roll through loads of currencies until I decide I'm going to stick with a build. And these gloves are pretty trash, so I would like better gloves before I go wasting loads of money on implicits. The belt is just, resistances, life, bit of armor, and some damage. I pulled this one over from another build, but it was less than an X for the belt. And then boots, I've just rolled random stuff on it. Elusive does nothing for me. Lightning resistance helps a little bit. And then other than that, again, bog standard boots with life and resistances. So I've not really got anything special on here. It's all fairly run-of-the-mill stuff. Not really got any jewels either. I need to look at timeless jewels to see what we can fit in. But at the moment, I've just got jewels to help cap my resistances and get a bit more cast speed to hopefully get to max stages just a little bit quicker when we're channeling. So I'll go through the gem links. So in the chest, I've got combustion support. The reason I've got this is I think I've got 10% crit. So I need help to make sure that I ignite. It's also good because it applies exposure, you get increased fire damage. Just generally a good jewel for flat kind of fire skills. Obviously, we've got our Incinerate. A 2120 was dirt cheap. I think it was 7 chaos. Infused channeling, which is not an amazing gem, but when I looked at what gems I could get, the only other ones that did more damage are sort of controlled destruction, which I definitely don't want to lower my crit even more. Or the other spell gem, I can't remember what it's called, where you get less AoE, and I definitely don't want that. Awaken Fire Pen was dirt cheap again. Managed to find one that was level 4. Immolate support, because once we set fire to the enemy, we get loads of added fire damage. And then Inspiration to lower the mana cost and get, again, some more LE damage and a bit more crit chance to make sure we're proccing Elemental Overload all the time. I might have called it Equilibrium before. I'm not sure. And then in terms of golems, we've got a Stone Golem, Chaos Golem, Fire Golem, and then a Lightning Golem. You can also roll Golem buffs on chest. So there's a lot I need to play around with, but a lot of these things didn't exist when I made the build. So I'm just trying to build it as it was for then. Then maybe the next episode we'll look at tweaking it and see what we can do with the build. One thing I would really love to do, but I imagine the jewel is an absolute fortune, is get explosions from occultist, get a curse on hit ring so that my clear feels better. But I assume they're quite popular jewels, so I'm not going to look at it at this stage. And then our auras, I'm running Herald of Ash, I'm running Determination, and I'm running Zealotry. I would like to fit in Defiance Banner to get more armor, but I do need some more mana first because it still feels a little bit uncomfortable. So once I get my cluster into play and get a bit of reservation, I'll probably add Defiance Banner as well. And then in terms of movement skill, I was thinking of using Leap Slam, but I can't get a very high faster attacks because of the dex requirements. And I don't want to kind of have to bother dropping a gem and fitting more in. So I've just gone Flame Dash, Arcane Surge, and then faster casting. And then at the moment to get my curse, because I don't have a curse on hit ring, it's Hex, Touch Support, Ellie Weakness, and Stormbrand. I've just stuck a live tap on it just to make sure that, I've never got issues with mana, but I don't think that's necessary. And that's it for the build. It served me really well in 3.10 and 3.11, so I'm going to put it through its paces in this league and see how it gets on. There'll be at least one more video update if I enjoy the skill, which is very unlikely because it maps like absolute shit. Then there might be another one, but we'll wait and see. Just wanted to do something a little bit different, more for entertainment value than anything else. But if we pull up the POV, the damage is actually not too bad. Now, I've moved the gems to 20 because the golem gems I've only just bought from like the towns because trade's a bit of a nightmare at the moment at this stage of the league. So I couldn't be bothered to whisper people constantly and then not reply. I did leave one gem link actually. We've got Molten Shell link with increased duration on left click, and then we've got the Vial version for kind of bosses and stuff like that. But yeah, if we look at the damage, this is when you're at max channeling and you've got all your flasks and stuff up. So it's optimal DPS and unlikely to be there much of the time. That's my empty jewel socket for the cluster jewel. So it's about 2.8 million channeling damage, and that's with being hit, so the enemy's covered in ash. They're obviously going to be burning and ignited. We block 1 in 2 hits and 1 in 2 spells, so we'll always have blocked recently. Infusion from channeling we'll always have, and then Wrath Aura from Lightning Golem, that doesn't matter anyway, we'll have it, but it's a pittance. Frenzy Charges will be a cool thing to get in the build, so it might be once it's optimized that I get Frenzy Charge on both rings, and minimum frenzies, and then maybe anoint the third minimum frenzy on my amulet, because that is a decent boost to DPS, so that's something we can look at. But that's it. The POB will be in the description if you wanted to have a play around. This is probably super suboptimal. I was quite a new player at the time when I played it. I kind of came across from Neverwinter before 3.9. Like I played Delve League, I think. Played a couple of leagues. Then I went back to Neverwinter because there was a new update and I was in quite a big guild there. Then got totally fed up because it's just the biggest piece of shit pay-to-win game ever. So then come back to PoE. So my knowledge at the time was limited, and I more made builds from a beginner for a beginner that I knew worked. And it did. It served me really well as a league star, and it helped me get enough currency to then go into a build that's a bit more fun and a bit more clear speed orientated. But yeah, that's it for this video. POB will be in the description, and there'll hopefully be another episode coming out shortly. As always, take care and see you all in the next one.